Dark Satellite Media.
A nameless evil, once buried forever. Now he's awake and he's ready for terror. But hold up, wait, there's a catch. This kid Mimi has a plan to hatch. With the magic gem, she has the power. The monster's her friend, it's her finest hour. They'll go on adventures, cause all kinds of trouble. Blow up the world and dance on the rubble. First he needs a name, something cool, it can't be lame. That's when it struck her, so cool and so mean. The monster would be named PG.
Hey, Steven, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So amazed to talk to you. Huge fan. Podcast is called Red River Podcast. I guess we're going to talk about Psycho Goreman and just how it was one of the most anticipated movies for me personally. I remember
wow.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it last year, and my relationship with you started, I went to a screening of Father's Day in New York City, so ever since then I've just been a fan and I followed your work.
Oh, wow, awesome.
So, got a chance to watch this movie this year, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And what I realize is 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people were still so hung up on the 80s, and I'm of that age, so I grew up in that age as well. But I like what you're doing, especially for something like Psycho Goreman, where I feel like we're kind of moving a little bit of that influence, and I feel like a lot of the stuff in the 90s that I loved is kind of the stuff that you love as well. I mean, am I wrong on that?
Oh, no, you're definitely right on that. Like, I made a conscious decision with this movie to have it feel more like a 90s, like, kids' adventure film. Like, the 80s influences are still there.
Absolutely.
But, like, just in terms of, like, visually, like, the look of the movie, I wanted it to have more of a cinematic look in the way that movies in the 90s had. Like, I remember as a kid always thinking that 90s movies looked so polished compared to 80s films. So it was part of the reason why we shot it in anamorphic. I mean, I know people automatically will default to, like, John Carpenter for that look.
Sure.
But really, to me, I felt like everything in the 90s, like every big movie would go that route and be shot anamorphic. And it just gave it such a cinematic quality that I thought it fit the film really well. It's like, I feel like the movie is very much like an early 90s movie that still has some of the kind of like runoff from the 80s in it. Like in the way that something like Ninja Turtles or Ninja Turtles 2 or like Guyver has that vibe, where it's like right on the cusp of the 90s, but still feels like the 80s in a lot of ways.
So good call on Guyver, because I wrote that down. So recently I had on one of my favorite 90s direct-to-video dudes, Brian Usna.
Oh, nice.
Oh, he's like, he's like a god to me for sure. And when I saw Psycho Goreman, I just like, as far as like the actual, the costume, it was very like, I thought it was like Guyver meets like Wishmaster, so like I love that 90s era like direct to video stuff. And it's funny that you say that that's what you went for, because in the very beginning, like the kids are playing and they're not like on a computer, they're not on their phone, they're outside playing like a physical game, and from there, like once a solo, like the guitar solo rips in, I'm like, this is like so cool, and I knew right away that it was going to be something like just something different. I feel like this movie might be like your most accessible. Could I say that?
Yeah, it's weird because it's like somehow my most accessible and my most polarizing at the same time, which it's crazy to me that as mild-mannered a person as I am, that I have the potential to make a movie that would infuriate a certain group of people as much as this movie has. But I mean, I hope it just means that this movie is, it'll like have some legs because it's prompting a discussion and not just kind of like, people like it and then they forget about it. Like, it seems like it's like whipping people up into a frenzy, whether it's like loving it or hating it.
Oh, so really? What kind of frenzy? Like, did I miss something? What kind of frenzy are we talking about?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are bumping on certain moments in the film, specifically a moment relating to a cross being broken.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think just maybe the direction of the movie and the kind of like lack of morals that the movie maybe presents.
Absolutely. That's the best
people
part.
seem to bump on that.
Yeah,
well,
for people like us.
Exactly.
For people, like, because I know where it's coming from, and you know, like it's like this movie that's kind of like absurd. It's like it's just ridiculous. Like when you really, it's not. There's nothing serious about it, kind of. So I love that.
There's nothing to take away from it that's super serious. So anybody who gets offended or put off by anything happening in it, it's like, maybe like chill out a little bit, because like maybe you're throwing a little too much energy at your media that you're consuming. Because I feel like it's overall like a pretty inoffensive, low impact movie that just has a lot of absurdity, but I feel like it's like on the level of like a classic Simpsons episode is what I was hoping for in terms of just the insanity on display. So
it's
I mean,
dynamic of the siblings, like Luke is like so kind of like innocent, and like Mimi is just like a madman. Like I love that, because it's like, so kids in movies for the most part, especially movies that tend to go towards horror, sometimes they sometimes they never really come off great. I always think of Halloween 5 with like the kid who stutters, and I'm like, oh my god, enough with this kid. But these two kids were like, they were so great, and their dynamic with Psycho Goreman is just like, all three of them have these really over the top personalities, and they exist in this world that is just so fucking beyond anything that anyone could comprehend, and I love that dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, I went into it with the intention of having kid characters that were not your stock like innocence. Like I've been calling it the Harry Potter syndrome, where kids in movies are just like wide-eyed, like watching the plot kind of like happen around them. And it just seems so boring to me to do something like that. So I figured, like, for this story to have energy and personality, like, we needed kid characters that could stand up to an evil space warlord man. Mimi needed to be somebody that could go toe to toe with PG, and I wanted to believe that, whether like for better or for worse. So I didn't want her to also be like this like angelic character that had a strong personality but could do no wrong. Like I wanted her to be abrasive, because I thought that was more interesting. Like I wanted a character that maybe you didn't always like, but still like enjoyed and appreciated despite their flaws.
Absolutely, and the one in particular, like in the very beginning scene where, they're digging that hole, and then they go to, they go home, and Luke is like, I think we woke Grandma up, and I love that Mimi is like, I told you, they're doing the Morse code, and she's like, I told you Grandma's in hell, and it's just something that subtle, but it goes, like you already know in the very beginning that Mimi is just like no joke,
Yeah, exactly, and I wanted to have like kind of throwaway lines like that to build the universe and this idea that Mimi exists in her own weird world. And I think that's more true to being a kid. Like my memories of being a kid are definitely like just living in my own weird microcosm, devoid of any consequence. And I wanted to show kids that we're kind of in that same mind frame, and that weren't just like the pure-hearted innocence that we typically get in genre films. Like I wanted them to be little maniacs that lived in their own little maniac world playing their nonsense dodgeball games, because that just seems more true to life to me.
Yeah, and what was am I wrong to think that there was kind of like a BioCop cameo in the movie?
Oh yeah, that's BioCop.
Okay.
Like in the credits, he's credited as BioCop. I mean, I think on the IMDb he's called Zombie Cop, because that's what we had in the script. Because I didn't want to like put it out there right away. I wanted people to discover it and be like, wait a second, is BioCop in this movie? And it's like a low key BioCop origin story.
It's so good. It's just like for fans of your work. It's like those little things that definitely, like those nuggets are for us for sure.
Well, I'm trying to build up the Steve Kostanski cinematic universe a little bit. I want all these things to like cross over with one another and tie into each other in weird nonsense ways. And so that's step one for me.
And another thing, there's two things actually. Anytime I see PG on any movie that's supposed to, because I'm like 43, so I'm like, like sometimes like a horror movie comes out and it's PG-13. Like to me, I automatically, I'm like, oh, like yesterday I watched Coming to America 2, and I'm like, oh, PG-13. I'm like, damn it. So I love that the movie is so not PG, but like that was like what you chose. Was that like a purpose thing?
Oh yeah, like when I was coming up with the idea, it was like my initial core concept was like a mashing of Rawhead Rex and E.T. together, and so
wow.
I wanted a title like kind of in that vein, and so I was, I was thinking like, what's like an abbreviation that hasn't been used that's catchy and will stay in people's minds, and yeah, I just stumbled upon like, well, why not PG, like the rating parental guidance,
So good.
because it's such an easy like thing to piggyback. Like I feel like it almost feels like a like Roger Corman or like Lloyd Kaufman move to take something like that and make it the title of your movie, because now it's forever going to be associated with that. So yeah, once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, why has nobody done this before? I got to jump on this.
Well done.
Yeah, but
well done.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
another thing that I love, just like I haven't heard a rap song like this. Like I think of Maniac Cop 2, because at the end of Maniac Cop 2,
Of course,
there was a Maniac Cop, right? So I'm like listening at the end, and PG has his own rap.
Yeah, well, that was a must. Like I had to have that because it's such a staple of that era of movie. And like Waxwork 2 has a great one at the end of it. Obviously, Ninja Rap in Ninja Turtles 2, and Turtle Power in the first Ninja Turtles is a great song too. Like there's just so many great songs, and I'm a like strong advocate of like ending on a high note with your movie. Like I want, back when I was imagining this playing in theaters and people watching it in a theater, like I want people like walking out of the theater to this song and just being on the high of like this crazy rap song. This seems so funny to me. So that's why, I had a hard commit to it. And Blitz Berlin, the composers, knocked it out of the park, like with the score across the board, but especially with that rap song. It's honestly like one of my favorite things about the movie. It's just the fact that that song exists.
Yeah, so for a guy like you, like seriously, like I just admire your filmmaking, because it's like, aside from your effects work on even random movies like Girl House, which I loved, like I feel like you are making movies specifically for people like me, and I just can't thank you enough. Like as soon as I see an Astron 6 or Steve Kostanski, anywhere attached to the film, I just like watch it, and it's just, man, I can't say enough about your filmmaking. I think The Void.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think The Void is one of the greatest horror movies of the last 10 years, 15 maybe. Like it's just
thank you.
Unbelievable movie. You made Leprechaun, which I don't even like the series, and I thought that was the best one.
Well, yeah, you're preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I'm a fan of Leprechaun 3. I have fond memories of watching that as a kid, renting it from Video Plus on VHS.
Is that the casino?
So my whole intent, that's the Vegas one, and my whole intention with it was like, just at the bare minimum, like make a movie that feels like that time you watched Leprechaun 3. So I just I threw everything I had at it to try and make the perfect, like straight to video in the 90s Leprechaun movie. I just wanted to emulate that experience. So I'm glad that you got something out of it.
For sure. It's like, that's my air. Like, I love that. Like I said, like I had Brian Usna on, and I'm like, yo, you made The Dentist. You made Return of the Living Dead 3. I'm like, I felt like Chris Farley. I'm just like, yo, I'm like, but you made, like it was such a, he talked for like 2 hours, and I fucking loved it. So cool.
He's awesome.
Yeah, man. He just like, there was something about those effects, and I feel like you're keeping that vibe alive. I know that you're a child, like you're a video store guy. I know how influential Freddy's Dead was, like the poster, like every interview. I know you're. I know you're a Beekler fan. So everything that you do, man. I guess unfortunately that looks like all the time I have. I don't really want to piss Tatum off. But thank you. I'm going to put this at the end. Like, we're going to talk about your movies, and then I'll put this little piece at the end of our episode. So
Okay, cool.
thank you so much, man. I look forward to everything else that you do, and I will spread the word about PG, and people will love it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you. And if you want to do this again in a longer form down the road sometime, I'd be all for it.
Sure. I mean, how do I contact you?
Just look me up on social media.
I follow you on Kill Kostanski. So like I have the podcast and then also the bands. I run my band page. It's Playing Dead NY, so you'll see it.
Okay.
You're the man.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you. It was great chatting with you.
All right, man. Later.
Yo, my brain deformed with improper thoughts. Ride through with no shoes and soccer shorts. Show up on horses with tomahawks, and I slap my dick out like I'm the boss. A.K. Akmiller, hot rod, hot willer. I'm a milk D top villa, iced tea cop killer, King Kong Godzilla, not filler, not thriller. I'm a rat bacteria, salmonella. I'm Jack the Ripper, lurking in the dungeon. 1888, midnight in London. They flabbergasted by the rapping bastard with the rap to match it and attract the back. It won't let me in a place if they got a dress code. I'm the great dictator, Chaplin with a globe. When I'm on a cunt, fuck another chick, sex mode. When I come gunpowder on my dick, explode like nobody can do it like that rugged man can. Do it old school, busy bee symphony. Bring it back, Canada, Missy me, gold chain, Mr. T, little bit of history. Heading wiggy jam on Chili B. Go to Philly, Vinny P. Like self-deprecation, selfish envy. Bring heat to the devil and hell respect me. I live my life in a hellish frenzy till I'm dead on the toilet like Elvis Presley. Got a hand grenade, live in the land of the brave, or the land of the slave, or the man from the cave. I'm Louis Prima, just a gigolo with the fedora hat, quick to diss a hoe like Mr. Snowden. Let the whistle blow. Joe Piscopo with the vicious flow. All systems go.
Cello. Yo,
What's
man.
up?
You shaved?
I did. Might need a new job, so I gotta look
haven't-
nice.
Oh, really?
I've not seen Brian that many times, but when I have, he's had like the best beard I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It'll
It's
be back.
very odd seeing him without it.
I know.
yeah.
It feels very naked.
Cool, man. Chris looks like he's taken time from weightlifting in like a penitentiary.
With my salmon hoodie.
Yeah, you look like you were spotting some like Aryan Brotherhood dudes, and now you're ready to podcast real quick.
Well, I need protection, so I'm their bitch basically.
Yeah,
while,
okay.
while I'm in the joint.
You look like you run the yard, man.
Yeah.
The rec room.
No, all right. So Red River podcast, we're gonna do this Psycho Goreman. If you're listening now, you're basically listening to me having a conversation with Steve Kostanski. And now we're gonna basically give a little quick review as to what's going on. And today we have Langan, obviously, but also Chris Longhito from the Films on Tap podcast, which is our sister group.
Yep.
They use my awful band all the time, so I thank
Get
them a lot
outta
for
here.
that. So tell me how the move to Gov Radio is.
It's been good. We certainly get a lot more like shares and I think a little bit more visibility. Like I see a lot more activity in our Facebook group page and more people chiming in, and the live stream thing adds a new element to it because people are commenting while we're talking and we can kind of like bring it up on the show and stuff. So it's been pretty good. We took a hiatus pretty much for the almost a year. We got to the beginning of COVID. We tried a couple of shows on Zoom, and I think we were just like not into it after a long time of doing the show. And we just kind of missed talking about movies. And Tim and Carla are both, stand-ups on Long Island and have relationships with Gov, and said we could get back on and do it through there. And it's been pretty cool ever since. So I'm excited to be back because I miss talking about movies. I probably messaged you more than, more often about something because we just didn't have like
You didn't have
a
the
vehicle
outlet,
to
yeah.
talk about
Venue,
stuff,
yeah.
Yeah, we had Tim on. We did the Tribe Called Quest episode with
Yep.
Tim. But yeah, cool. I listen to it when it hits Spotify because the live
Sure.
thing, unless you're like sitting at home, it's like a
Yeah.
hard thing to kind of keep
It
up
is.
with.
Yeah. It's
but-
on Friday nights too. And like, people have maybe not recently, but like people eventually will get back to their lives on a Friday night. And
I'm out on a super spreader on Fridays, so I can't.
Yep. So I definitely wanted to make sure we got it back up on like iTunes and Spotify after the fact, because the first few shows it was just the live version where you had to go through like Boxcast or something like that, and anybody that listens to podcasts is not doing that. The fact that it's easy,
they want to listen whenever they feel like listening.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
like 30 minutes like I'll go, if I'm at work and I could listen to 30 minutes, like I'll put on films and then I'll do something else for 30 minutes. And I go back and forth, in my week. So it's a lot easier. So like now that the episodes are up and just give everyone kind of like a big rundown as to like what the show is really.
Sure. So, ideally it started off as, hey, let's talk about beer and movies, because those are two things that, Tim and I are certainly very interested in. And, the films on tap was like, the title made sense. Ultimately, we ended up just talking about movies and pop culture a lot, not so much the beer part of it. We did a couple of events at like Long Island Brewery and Bobby Q and those kinds of places. We've started kind of revisiting the beer thing. So Tim will kick off the show with kind of whatever he's drinking that night.
What are
really,
you
it's just
what are you drinking right now? Yeah,
me. I've got Irish coffee.
Oh, is that? I don't know what that is. Is that?
It's got some whiskey and some Baileys in it.
Okay, cool.
Sure. It's Sunday. But yeah, so now again, it's really all about like our love of pop culture and movies, and mostly on the Govs thing so far, we've done like lists and stuff, or special type episodes, because there hasn't been anything new to talk about, like new releases and stuff. There's been a few things here and there on HBO Max and stuff, but for the most part, it's just, hey, what's the best this type of movie, and then we'll go into it. Like we just did best fights, so it's been fun though.
Yeah, the best fights is cool. So like, I'm going to talk to my friend Eric Uresk, who's like he's a MMA trainer, but also like a fighter. And, he was just he trains Dominic Cruz, which was like a UFC fighter. And that was one of the things we brought up. We're like, all right, so when we do our episode, we'll do like our favorite fight scenes. And it just happened to coincide with you guys. And I was listening to that, and it was funny to hear everyone's opinion. So, and shout out to Jeff Speakman, like you said. But
dude, I seriously, like, I've seen The Perfect Weapon more times than any person should see The Perfect Weapon.
Oh my God, that movie. Yeah, you can get like the full thing up on YouTube. But yeah, so all right, so it brings us to this episode. I loved Psycho Goreman. It was one of those movies. This and Synchronic were two movies that I was totally anticipating this year. So I messaged the Psycho Goreman world, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to talk to the director via email?" And I was just like, I'm talking to them via email. And I was in my head, I was like, do I want to talk to Steve Kostanski? I'm like, absolutely. Like, what do you like? I'm like, the director? I'm like, yeah. I thought they were going to give me the actor, like just someone. And I'm like,
Mimi.
Sure. Yeah, I would have taken Mimi. I don't get
yeah,
totally. And so when that happened, I was like, this year, it's funny that you said that you guys took a break, because for this podcast, we were so like, we would do like one episode every 3 months, maybe. Right.
Okay.
Like that's what
you guys,
it would be like sporadic or in spurts.
Yeah.
I feel like it's quality, not quantity, right? So you guys would like pick a subject and really dive into it very deeply. And so you had time to like listen to it over a couple of sessions or whatever, like it's not like, you were trying to put out an hour every week or whatever.
I don't like that pressure.
Parker, me neither.
Parker obviously doesn't. I don't know where he is.
So, he probably didn't even see Psycho Goreman.
Yeah, he didn't see it. You know what's funny about that is he didn't, and he had all the time in the world to watch it, to do this episode, but he was just like, I don't know. I can't really explain
and wouldn't it be right up like any horror movie fan's alley? It's fucking awesome. Why wouldn't you watch it?
He's gonna watch it in 2 years when it hits PIX, and he's gonna be like, man, that movie was really good. And we're gonna be like, yeah, no. Yeah.
Anybody that came up in our age group, this movie's like a fastball right down home plate,
it touches all the right nerves.
So
All his films do.
Yeah.
I remember. So they were like 15 minutes. I'm like, fuck it, I'll take it. So right, we did the Adam Randall episode, me and Langan, the other director, and
Yep.
then they were like, all right, Steve's gonna call you at 11. It might have been 11:35 or whatever. And for some reason, my fucking iPad wasn't working. Like the GarageBand wasn't working, and I'm trying cable swaps and all this other shit, and I'm calling people to test it out, and nothing was working. And I was just like, I was pretty crushed, to be honest with you.
Sure.
The time came and went. I emailed his PR, and I was like, yo, I'm like, just skip me. I'm like, I
What
don't
was
know.
her name? I forget, but
Oh,
Tatum.
Yeah, Tatum.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what was funny was I feel like at the end of the show, you were like, I don't want to piss Tatum off. And then it seemed like she was like on the line the whole time.
That's what they do.
the handover.
Yeah, that's what they do. She's the PR, and she sets up, for this.
Don't answer that.
No, not even. But it's like that's what they do. Like they basically set up. He probably did like 15 of these 15
Right.
things.
Quick fire.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's
Yeah.
why they wanted to do the phone. And what happened was I restarted my iPad. Man, the power of restarting and resetting is amazing, because as soon as I did it, it worked. I emailed them and they're like, all right, we'll put you at the end of the list. And so when I finally got a chance to do it, I was pretty psyched. And one of the coolest things was it was after, like I said, I didn't want to piss off Tatum. And Steve, I didn't ask him to, but he's like, he's like, if you want to do something like this in a longer form, like, let's do it. And I was like, I'm like, that's
Sure.
perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
That's great, because you didn't even get the chance to like ask him about the void and shit. Like you could only really talk about.
You look at his
like a
IMDb page. I mean, he's definitely got some stuff we would love to dig deeper into.
And he's doing the Day of the Dead TV show for Sci-Fi.
Yes. Yeah.
And is that going to have a direct relationship with the Romero universe? It's not going to be like that shitty Day of the Dead remake or whatever.
I think it's the relationship with the original.
Cool.
Nice.
So, which is cool, so I'm looking forward to that. But at first when it, like, Chris on his podcast is smooth, like I am not. So I'm talking to this dude going like, I don't even know what to do in the very beginning. So I started
You
doing
fanboyed out a little bit.
I did. I was doing like the fucking Ralph Cramden, like
you were the Chris Farley.
Yeah.
Remember that?
So, because I'm thinking like I have 15 minutes. What am I gonna like? I need to just say everything I need to say, and it's harder on the phone. But what did you take away from those 15 minutes that you want to talk about, Chris?
So what I liked is he seemed really down to earth, and just kind of like a guy like us that's a big fan of movies. The fact that he referenced Secret of the Ooze twice in a 15-minute conversation was pretty impressive. But his aesthetic is informed by like everything that we love and grew up watching. And what I particularly liked was that he wanted the kids to feel like legit and not just passengers along the story, but actually like making the story happen. They were real players in what was going on, and not just like observing and like reacting, particularly with the Mimi character. And some people I've seen like say, oh, that character was annoying or whatever, and it takes a little bit to get used to her in the first few minutes, because you're like, whoa, because you haven't really seen a character like her in a while. But by the end of the movie, you love her. I mean, she's a great character, and that's what I think sets this movie apart. Is there's great gore, there's the PG is a great central character, but everyone gives such a straight performance. They're not hamming it up, or they're not acting like they're in on the joke, and that's what makes it feel so much more entertaining. It's sincere.
Yeah, it's really well done, and it could have gone. I mean, listen, when you talk about the Steve Kostanski or Astron 6 universe, you're already talking about like weird lunacy.
Yeah.
shit that doesn't really make sense.
Right.
But this movie could have been, could have just gone in a different direction. It could have been like completely corny, pretty fast, but everything about it just worked, man. Like I really loved it. I usually hate kids in movies. I referenced the stuttering kid.
Yeah, that was great because that kid really does suck.
He was the
I
worst.
hope his life was trash for the rest after Halloween 5.
He's actually on episode 76. So
coming up.
We'll get to ask him, but like I love Mimi because she was so over the top, and I told him I love the trifecta of like PG, who is just overly dramatic and he wants to like tear your soul apart like fucking Hellraiser, and then you have the brother Luke, who's just like this like kind of like normal worried kid.
He's the wholesome.
He's the wholesome one.
Yeah.
And him and Mimi are perfect, like yin and yang, They like
yes,
complement each other.
Because she's completely out of her mind. And I love the scene like where the cops come and he melts the cop, turns him into what turns out to be BioCop. And she's just explaining to him the rules, like it doesn't even like he just fucking like fried this cop and
it doesn't phase them. And that's what's great
cop.
about like the rest of the characters too, because even the parents, this is not a movie where the parents are absent. And, like a lot of 80s, like Amblin movies where like the kids are the protagonists and you don't even see the parents. The parents are part of it. And even them, they're like, all right. Or like the parents of the kid that he turns into that fucking blob. They're just having him have dinner at the table. It's amazing.
Right. No one ever says like, you turned into like,
whatever.
Is this ever
it was
gonna
a
go
brain,
back to
right?
normal?
He like turned him into a brain with like
pretty much.
It was like such a hen. It felt
With
like such a
feet.
Henenlotter thing. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, like he when he was summoned to the parents' house, I was like, oh wow, this is like very like I thought he was gonna be a secret for the whole movie, but then they interacted, then they did the montage.
They're just like out and about. Like they were walking in town on Main Street with like the kid turned into a brain, like it was no big deal. They're at the diner.
Yes.
Everybody's just like
that was the universe. So but anything you took away, Langan, in particular?
From the interview?
Yeah.
Well, I was relieved that he's so obviously his films have such an 80s 90s heavy references to it and stuff, and that he fully embraces that, and like things we think about his films, I was relieved to think that he feels the same way as in what he created, because he has such a great way of ability to create nostalgia without like being heavy-handed with it. Like his films create the vibe of those films we grew up with, The Void, and I think a lot of it stems from the use of the practical FX first of all, and that takes you back in it. But they look, it's what it is. It's like sometimes like people make a film set in like the 80s, and it's really heavy-handed. Like I know, like The Wedding Singer. I know Sam's a big fan of it and stuff, but it's like every second is like an '80s reference, and everybody's got leg warmers on and shit.
And it's a very wink, wink. Like they're almost like
it wasn't like that.
This?
No.
That's why I like the show Freaks and Geeks. It was set in the '80s, but it really could be any time. It's not over the top with references. It put so Steve's they put you in that world without like beating you over the head and giving you that vibe of those things. And it felt like 80s, but I know they made a reference that the dad was in the Iraq War or something like that. So this was like 90s or something, right? And he even Steve.
Well, this was more of like
I keep saying 80s, but
this was a more 90s centric thing. And it's funny that you mentioned that after you posted that meme where you're like, I lived through the 80s.
Oh,
and there's like a picture of like a Rubik's Cube. No, like just everything that people remember from the 80s.
Guitar.
And then and then the real picture underneath, which was nothing except like a shitty
wood
TV.
paneling and like a crappy carpet. A TV dinner tray. It wasn't like that, man. Everything was in neon.
Yeah.
And it was like HBO on constantly, and you saw the same movie 6 times in a day.
Caveman with Ringo Starr. That was always on.
Maybe that's why we absorbed them more. We studied them. It's like,
it could be.
Gonna watch Back to School for the 45th time.
Or Walk Like a Man.
Yo, Walk Like a Man.
I love that movie.
Walk Like a Man is a really good, like Howie Mandel had that and A Fine Mess.
Yeah.
Those two movies are fucking great. But for me, anything, I was such a big Cheers fan that anything Ted Danson did, I was just automatically going to watch because I love fucking Cheers that much. But all right, so like as far as the movie, I mean, what is there to say? You know, there's like the kids, like Mimi and Luke, find an amulet when they're digging in the backyard, and they awaken this fucking homicidal intergalactic demon, which I guess they control.
Right, because they've got the amulet. Yeah.
We don't want to give away too much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
haven't seen it. Yeah.
No, for sure. It's a spoiler-free thing, and that's, you can get that from the trailer. And actually, no, that's the synapses. And then that's it. And then from there, it's like just the adventures that they get into. And what I really took away as well is just the Saturday morning 90s cartoon feel it had.
Sure.
In a lot of the interviews that Steve has done, he referenced Rawhead Rex and
I was
E.T.
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Rawhead Rex and E.T. for his
perfect.
Right? Like,
it's perfect.
But he also said it was just because Rawhead Rex was so boring.
It was disappointing. It could have been so much better,
Yeah, he said it was boring, and he wanted to do something like that, but he wanted to make it better, like to make the monster better.
Yeah. But you're right about the Saturday morning thing. It's like one of those episodes where like a famous WWF wrestler like comes to town, and like, the family or the kids are just interacting with them, and they're like this larger than life character. The same can be said for PG. Are you
trying to say Mr. Nanny?
Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando.
Oh, that's no. Yeah, all right, that one too.
Yeah.
Those two actually. And I think they did mock up posters for Psycho Goreman. And Steve was talking about, he said that they made one for the Sinbad movie, House Guest.
Oh,
so they made this. So I think that they might have done Suburban Commando as well.
Was that the one with Phil Hartman?
I don't remember. I just remember Sinbad.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the movie that killed Phil Hartman.
Well, the 80s loved that kind of like fish out of water. Well, I mean, the whole ET thing obviously spawned off was Mac and Me, and then there was like another one I don't even remember. And then you got like Harry and the Hendersons, probably with, like the Bigfoot living with a family, and everybody learns a lesson and finds love in the end. And that's why I don't want to say anything in particular, but the end of this movie, I thought Psycho Goreman was just fantastically hilarious.
Perfect.
If you play off that theme I just mentioned,
Yeah. It's like I said, it was one of those movies that I heard last year, and anything that has his name attached, that has anyone from the Astron 6 universe, like after watching The Void and fucking
The Void was so good. I know a lot of people, like there's some people that hate it in the horror nerds group, but that movie, I don't know how you could hate that movie.
It's
when we thought we were going to have Steve for like a full episode before it was the 15 minutes, and I was like watching and rewatching his whole catalog, and I hadn't watched The Void again in a long time and stuff, and man, still I thought he was even better than when I saw it the first time.
It's so good. I remember when it came out. Shout out to Parker, because I guess he just, I don't know, like you can't really get him to watch things that he doesn't want to watch, and I went to his
he'd
house.
rather watch like an old just like a rerun on TV or something.
I don't know. So I went there, and I remember. Do you remember, Brian, that I went there and rented the movie just so he could watch it?
Oh, you like forced them to sit down and watch it?
I went there and watched it in his living room just because I thought it was that good, and it was my fourth time.
Oh, that's awesome. My one and only horror nerds get together was in his basement, and it was the first time that he had seen Street Trash.
Okay.
Wow. Like you guys, I don't know who got it or who brought it, but you guys were like showing it to Parker for the first time.
I want to say The Watch brought that over.
Probably.
But I don't remember. I remember the menu was up for like 6 hours. While
exactly. We all got drunk first, and then
that's why I just kept hearing it. So, but yeah, just the catalog. I mean, the fact that he made a Leprechaun movie that didn't suck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
The
really
gore in that Leprechaun movie is superb.
it's
The gore. Yeah.
it's unbelievable, and it just goes to show you that, like, man, dudes like that, like the Astron 6 guys, I don't even know if they still function as a group. They're kind of like the KNB. These guys just like this collective of people that make movies that I feel are so specific to us and the shit that we love, that it's like, man, the fact that these guys exist and they're out there and they're super cool, as you could hear, Steve just was normal and cool.
It's just nice that, like, in this world where there's so many things coming at you that you could watch or whatever, I know that, like, when you have a camp like this, you just follow them, whatever they're going to put out, I know I got to see that.
Yeah.
Like, it streamlines it.
Yeah, for me, it's like even more relevant or enjoyable than like Trauma, you know, because it's got that similar sense of like absurdity and gore, but it's like well written and better performed. Like the acting is better. Yeah. So it makes it that much better. I knew that this movie was sort of better than just like your run of the mill kind of like ridiculous gore fest. Tara was sitting on the couch and I put it on, and she was like playing Candy Crush and not really watching, but then like it started to pull her in, and there was at least like 4 times where she laughed out loud. And this is my wife hates gore, hates horror movies, and she was like, what the fuck is this? But like thoroughly enjoying it. And I was like, yes, this is like a really, really good, enjoyable movie.
Yeah, I mean, she hates gore and loves Psycho Goreman. So that right there, stamp of approval. I wish we could have done a screening for this somewhere in a movie theater, because I think it would have been cool. Yes. So between this and the movie Bloody Hell, which I just recently saw, which we'll talk on the new episode, my 2 favorite movies of the year. Really, really well done. I don't know. Did you watch Bloody Hell yet?
I have not. I got to watch that.
What's that on? What's that?
I just rented it.
Okay.
I rented
what's the what's the idea of it?
So
you don't, no spoilers or whatever, but
all right, let me tell you the ending.
Real quick.
So yeah, real quick. So it's basically this dude in the beginning, he foils a bank robbery.
Oh fuck, I did watch this. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, how good was that?
Yes, we texted about it. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought
that
so.
movie was awesome.
Yeah,
that movie was fucking awesome.
From beginning
so enjoyable,
to end, right?
Funny. What?
From beginning to end, it was just so good.
It was nonstop. It was hilarious. The whole conceit of like him kind of talking to himself worked.
Yeah.
Completely. It was so good. I forgot the title. I guess that's why. But these 2 movies together.
Oh,
you know,
right?
You make a double feature.
Yeah.
They're so entertaining.
That's what I'm saying. Like these 2 movies, you put them together. Like
Brian, you got to watch Bloody Hell.
I'm on
awesome.
it, man. I'm intrigued.
It's really good. And to close out our 90s, you know, I'm going to mention what we both watched Kid 90.
Oh
yesterday.
my God. Talk about nostalgia, you know, like, and this is a movie that does nostalgia right. It's the Soleil Moon Frye directed. She kind of culled all of her old videotapes, and God, I had no clue how many different famous people and types of different famous. She was like one of those people that was able to navigate like every group in high school and be popular with all of those different groups. And that movie was just like, it was soulful, but like really great to look back on that era. I can't recommend that enough.
Well, because what she did was like she had her own version of Facebook and Instagram, like before any of that stuff. Yep. So it was like she basically had a really cool life, and she videotaped and recorded and saved messages and letters for like 20 years of her life. And then she opened it up and then put it up on Hulu. And we're all like, you know, all these people, like
crazy. I had no idea she fucking dated Danny Boy for like from House of Pain for like a while.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
who
like,
knew?
Who knew? Like, but you watch all this stuff and it's like, you kind of, I don't know. It's just great. It's happy, it's sad, and it's happy. And it's just, you're watching this person's life. And she is, I don't know, just very likable. And the stuff that she navigated, like living in New York in the 90s, she hung out with the skaters. So when
the guys from Kids too, you know, like It's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. So on Hulu, I totally recommend it. So cool, man. This is going to be a nice tag along to the Kostanski episode. Really looking forward to having him on in May.
Very cool.
And that's it, man. Everybody listen to Films on Tap podcast.
Yes.
And Red River. And well, you're already listening to Red River, but watch Psycho Goreman because it's fun as hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So we're done here.
Cool, man.